We have another significant update on the Corey Perry contract termination situation with the Blackhawks. Could Corey Perry actually end up having to pay back a huge sum of money to the Blackhawks organization? We'll discuss that possibility coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have another development in the Corey Perry situation that I guess personally I hadn't thought of when we discussed before last week, the whole situation that kind of, dominated the news headlines around Corey Perry. Of course, in case you're new or you kind of missed that story, it was pretty big in the NHL world last week where the Chicago Blackhawks originally had placed Corey Perry as a healthy scratch, held him out of a couple of games. Nobody really knew what was going on. And then they announced that they completed an investigation. There was a workplace incident, not involving any other players or families or anybody like that, but somebody else in the organization at a corporate event. And they were placing him on waivers for the purpose of contract termination, which kind of shocked the hockey world. Nobody's seen that coming. So, of course, he cleared the waivers process, which wasn't a big surprise. Nobody was going to take a $4 million contract on when all this uncertainty, and especially with the possibility of signing him later for much less if he's going to continue playing. Of course, Corey Perry's had a long, pretty successful NHL career, 38 years old. I would imagine at this point, a lot of people expect him to keep playing, but we don't really know. So at this point, the contract's been terminated. Corey Perry's put out a statement apologizing for the incident. Of course, he apologized to his teammates, the organization, coaches, his family, says he was embarrassed, and also indicated that he's seeking help for mental health and alcohol abuse. So clearly, whatever was going on there, it's believed that alcohol was involved, and obviously he's getting help for whatever he's going through, which kind of led to that incident and led to this termination. But another, kind of concept here that Chris Johnson, of course, of TSN and The Athletic have brought up in a recent Athletic article, which, like I said, I hadn't thought of, and it's really not something you really see or hear or think of much because it's not a common thing. But obviously the problem with a lot of NHL contracts is there's different structures and there's bonuses included. Corey Perry signed a 1-year deal with the Blackhawks for $4 million. But it's not all paid as a salary. He received $2 million as a signing bonus. The other $2 million is paid as salary throughout the season. So considering it was around the quarter mark of the season when he was terminated, he likely had received about a quarter of the money, or would be entitled to that, from the salary portion of his contract. So at a $2 million, a quarter of that would be about $500,000. The $2 million signing bonus would have been paid in the summer shortly after signing. So he would have received a grand total of about $2.5 million total on $4 million total compensation contract signed as a free agent. So clearly he only ended up playing for 1/4 of the season. So he would theoretically only be entitled to 1/4 of the money, which would 1/4 of $4 million is $1 million. So this could lead to another situation where he could have to repay a bunch of this money back to Chicago. I mean, if he's received a total compensation of about 2.5 and he's only entitled to 1, that's over $1 million, closer to 1.5 million, that he might have to end up repaying to the Blackhawks. Now, of course, there's other question marks and things about this whole scenario that we don't really know how it's going to unfold just yet. For example, will Corey Perry, through the Players Union, file a grievance on this contract termination? That's not quite clear as of yet. They have 60 days to make that choice. And at this point, we haven't gotten a clear answer, yes or no, if that's going to happen. The last we've heard, the last anybody's heard, is that it's still being reviewed and they haven't made a decision yet. So clearly, I mean, we don't know every last detail about this incident, okay? I mean, clearly, I'm sure a lot of people caught wind of the ridiculous rumors going around about Perry and what had happened, but of course, those turned out not to be true because, of course, he was linked to, another player's family, which I'm not going to get into the details because I don't want to really regurgitate that anymore because I've heard enough of it because it was false. But, there's some pretty wild and speculative things going on about what he did. And obviously that, was not true. But what we do know is because he had, based on Corey Perry's statement and based on what reporters were able to find out, is this happened at a corporate event while on the road. This happened, I believe there was team sponsors and several other team employees at this event, not just players. So lots of other, behind the scenes staff that are not necessarily known to the public, or at least, the way players are. And we do know alcohol was involved in some capacity. And he made a statement saying he's getting help for alcohol abuse and for some, I believe he mentioned some mental health stuff too. So clearly, fair to say he was struggling with some things, including the way he used alcohol. So, obviously we do know that part to be true. So it makes you wonder, some people have brought up, well, rather than being terminated, why wasn't he placed in the player assistance program? Because that's what it's there for. We've seen players, whether it be for mental health purposes or for substance abuse, whether it be alcohol, different drugs, what have you, go into this program. Like Carey Price has done it. Bobby Ryan was another one. It's been used, and some of these people have been quite public about explaining what they went through after, and it's, I think, in a lot of ways been very helpful. So why would the Blackhawks not offer, as much as they probably weren't happy with what happened, instead of terminating him, putting him into this program? That's why a lot of people do believe that there is a case for grievance. But again, like I said, we don't know every last detail, and I understand why the Blackhawks, after going through such a controversy and scandal before with the whole Kyle Beach thing, that they're pretty sensitive to any type of scandal and anything happening in-house, that they felt the need to be on top of it right away, to handle it with zero tolerance, and to not, take that kind of behavior within the organization. I do get it. But, from a legal standpoint, there are people out there I've heard argue that there's definitely a case. And if Corey Perry wants to grieve it, it very well could lead to that. And if he does, then obviously he may not have to pay back anything. Because at this point, he's not going to pay back money when the grievance part hasn't been decided upon. And obviously, the other part of this that could help determine what happens, and it'll determine when it all goes down and how the order of events take place. But looking back at like the Evander Kane situation in San Jose, by the time they went through the whole grieving process, he had already had a new contract with the Oilers. So they did factor in, obviously what he had made with Edmonton as like lost wages, so to speak, because, you lost out on this much money, but you made this, and they do have to factor that in because you can get reemployed and, kind of make up for the lost money that you didn't make, right? So that all kind of gets factored into the settlement. So we'll see where this goes, but like I said before, I don't think we've heard the end of the story. We don't know if a grievance is going to be filed, but if it isn't, it could lead to a significant payback by Perry to the team, and it could lead to, obviously, we don't know about future employment for the player here, because there's been some speculation recently that teams like the Edmonton Oilers are monitoring the situation closely and do have interest to bring him on board if and when he's ready and able to do so, later in the season, once he's gone through the treatment or help or whatever he's doing that he feels he needs to do before he's ready to possibly play again. So we'll see. But let me know your thoughts on the scenario. Let me know if you think there's a case here for a grievance or how things will play out as the Corey Perry story is nearing an end, but still not quite completely drawn up to a close just yet. Let me know your thoughts on that. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll definitely be back later with another news video, all kinds of other NHL news, and some rumors to take a look at here today regarding some potential trades we might see as well. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.